Hey guys, we are coming back to you live for our World War I unit. So where we left off in our last lead puzzle video, we were talking about why World War I was a different type of war. And we said that it was a new kind of war. It was more deadly than any other war fought before it because of two reasons. And one of the reasons was the fighting strategy of trench warfare, and the other was the massive amounts of technology that they didn't have before. So where we left off talking, okay, and we were kind of talking about this slide, is that their new strategy of trench warfare, while they thought it was going to be better, was actually worse. They said that since we had these two trenches on either side, and to get the land of your enemy, you had to cross that area called no man's land. We said it was really hard to get across no man's land and actually get land. Okay, so we said that in 1915, World War I is going to end up into the stalemate. Okay, it wasn't where either side could not gain a victory. Okay, the only thing that happens as a stalemate is that a lot of people die. Okay, so we said in 1916 both sides are going to try to break the stalemate by launching these huge battles. We said in 1916 both sides failed. Okay, the only thing that came out of 1916 was a massive amount of death. We mentioned that the Battle of Verdun, okay, about 1 million people were killed in a really short time frame. So then we have to think, well, if the land battles aren't really going anywhere, what are these countries supposed to do? So at this time in 1916, both sides are going to now focus on a different part of their military known as the Navy. Okay, so we have these naval battles. Now in World War II, the Navy was a huge deal, and we talk a lot about the battles in World War II. However, in World War I, there was only one major naval battle. Okay, and it wasn't because they didn't have a lot of ships, okay, but it was just because one country really dominated in the Navy compared to the other nations. Okay, so the one battle that takes place in World War I is going to be called the Battle of Jutland. Those of you who had the country of Denmark for our country projects will know that Denmark, okay, is made up of the Jutland Peninsula. Okay, that's the area that attaches to the rest of mainland Europe. So this battle takes place off the coast of Denmark. So what's going to happen is the British Navy and the German Navy are going to fight in this battle. Okay, if we think back, we mentioned this before. The country that has the largest navy in all of history is going to be Great Britain. Great Britain's navy is huge. It's spectacular. They have lots of naval vessels and so on. Okay, while their army and their marines is very, very tiny. They focus on the military, which makes sense because they're an island nation. Okay, Germany, on the other hand, they had a lot of U-boats, but not a lot of naval vessels. Okay, so when this battle broke out, okay, the British Navy is going to send multiple naval vessels, and so is the German. The problem is that the number of the British vessels far outnumbered the German Navy. Okay, so what the British are going to be able to do is really surround the German Navy and block them and stick them right next to Denmark for the remainder of the war. Okay, so we have all these German vessels, but they could not go out to actually attack or have any other battles because the British vessels surrounded them. They were stuck. Okay, making this the only major naval battle in World War I. The British Navy also did something else that was highly successful against the Germans. Okay, what they decided to do is take some of their other naval vessels and send them down the coast of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the other Central Powers, and they're going to set them up just off the coastline. Okay, and these ships would sit there, and what they would do is prevent any German supply ships from getting to the port city. Okay, so if your supply ship cannot get to your port city, that means, okay, that your country is not getting any of those needed supplies. This is the time of war. Countries were not making a lot of food and clothes and so forth because a lot of their efforts were put forward towards the war effort. Men were fighting, factories were making ammunition, okay, things like that. They were not focused on the basic necessities. They were going to buy those supplies. So the British Navy is going to send down their naval vessels and block those cities off. So what ends up happening is that those cities are not able to get those needed supplies. They don't get any new clothes or food and so forth. This doesn't only affect the military in Germany and Austria-Hungary, it affects the rest of the population. A lot of food came in this way. So essentially widespread starvation is going to spread throughout Europe. Around 8 million people in Germany died simply because of starvation. Nothing to do with being a soldier in a battle or anything like that. So if the British Navy is going to block your port cities, okay, Germany and Austria-Hungary okay, and Italy, okay, are going to be very upset. They're going to say, well, what can we do to stop this? Because we need those supplies. So the German Navy also has, something up their sleeve. The German military, okay, their Navy actually had submarines at this time. So as the British Navy blocks their port cities, Germany is going to start sending out their U-boats. And they're going to say, well, if we can't get our supplies, they shouldn't get supplies either. So what these U-boats would do is that they would look for these supply ships going towards Great Britain or to France, and they're going to target them. They're going to go and they're going to blow them up. Now the problem with targeting a supply ship is that where the submarine was in relative location to where the supply ship was, they couldn't actually tell if it was a supply ship, okay, who owned it, and if it was a neutral ship. They couldn't tell the difference. So were there people on that ship, or were there simply supplies on that ship? Okay, Germany couldn't tell the difference, and they didn't really care, and that's going to become a problem. Okay, so Germany sends out their U-boats, and they're going to target any ship that's going to go to Great Britain, any ship that goes to France, and they're going to blow them up. The problem is that when they start this policy, they started to blow up ships that were neutral, that did not contain supplies. They contained people. So Germany essentially killed all these innocent people who had nothing to do with the war. Okay, that idea is actually going to be one of the reasons that America starts getting pulled into this war. Now, if we look at America, okay, in our war, we're about in 1916, entering 1917. This war started in 1914. So we have to think, well, where was America for these 2.5 years? We weren't in it, nor did we want to be in it. Okay, so when World War I broke out, our president at the time was Woodrow Wilson. You can kind of see him there behind my head. Okay, and our population is made up of immigrants. Okay, either they came directly from Europe or they were the children of people who came from Europe. So as immigrants of European countries, people are watching World War I and they're concerned and they care. Okay, but most people, while they felt bad for their home country, they also did not feel that this was America's problem. Okay, they looked at World War I as a European conflict. We had no reason being there because it doesn't involve us. It involves empires. We weren't an empire. It involves nationalism. We were already independent. Okay, we felt that this did not affect us in any way. Okay, President Woodrow Wilson, going off of what America felt, okay, he's going to stand up and declare us neutral. We are a neutral country. If you're a neutral country, that means that you do not pick sides in a war. So we were not for Germany, but we were also not for Great Britain. Okay, as a neutral country, we are able to send supplies over to Europe. We can send weapons and food and clothes as long as we send both sides the same amount. So if we send $1 million worth of supplies to Great Britain, we also have to send $1 million worth of supplies to Germany. Okay, it's fair, it's neutral. So he's going to declare us neutral, okay, at this time. Now America, we know, eventually ends up into World War I. So we have to think, well, how do we go from being neutral to being full out in this war? There's going to be 3 reasons that drag us into this war. So we didn't want to be in World War I, but eventually we are kind of pulled in. The first reason, part of that is our fault. Okay, so if we think about, okay, the United States, okay, our neutrality is going to be threatened, but this part is kind of up to us. Okay, so we're a neutral country, we can send supplies. The problem with us is that we sent more supplies, more money to Great Britain and France. We sent less supplies to Germany and Austria-Hungary. Okay, we didn't agree with Germany, and since we didn't agree with them as much, we sent it to countries that we did agree with, which is our current day allies, France and Great Britain. Okay, so we sent about $2 billion of war bonds. War bonds are kind of like investment stocks that we bought, okay, to say, oh, we're going to help the allies, and we did not do that for the Germans. So essentially, we were not neutral. Okay, we said we were neutral, we declared ourselves neutral, but we weren't neutral. Does Germany know that? Yes, yes they do. Okay, and if Germany knows that we're not actually treating them equal, okay, when they go out and blow up supply ships, okay, or neutral ships that affect us, they're not going to care. Okay, so the first reason that pulls the United States into the war is dealing with those neutral ships. In May 1915 and in March 1916, German U-boats go out, okay, and they ended up targeting 2 passenger ships. These ships did not have any supplies on board, only people. The British ship was called the Lusitania, Okay, and when it was blown up, 1,200 people were killed, including 128 Americans. So we're going to become kind of upset over this because we know that is wrong. In March 1916, Germany is going to go out and do the exact same thing. This time it was a ship called the Sussex, and again, a lot of Americans are on board. Okay, so when this starts to happen, President Woodrow Wilson is going to talk to Kaiser Wilhelm II, the leader of Germany. He's going to demand them to stop blowing up neutral ships. In response, Kaiser Wilhelm II is going to come up with a promise, an oath, called the Sussex Pledge. Okay, and what this oath said was that Germany, okay, would not attack a merchant ship without warning. So if we think about the wording of that, it's not that they're going to stop blowing up ships, but now they're going to give the ship warning. So just in case it is a passenger ship, those passengers have time enough, okay, to get off that ship into safety before their ship blows up. Okay, we can kind of see some of the problems here. Now about this time, okay, President Wilson is also going to be up for re-election, and he knows that America still doesn't want to be in this war. Personally, he knows that we're going to enter, okay, but he knows the public doesn't want war, so he's going to run during his election on the form that he is not going to enter the war. We're going to be neutral, and that's going to help him win. Very shortly after his win in 1916, Germany decides to break their Sussex Pledge and blow up any ship that they feel like, with or without warning. Okay, the breaking of the Sussex Pledge was the second reason America is pulled into the war. At this time, now we're going to cut off supplies to Germany. They lied. They're not telling us, the truth and so on. Okay, the third reason that leads to war is another item that Germany did. Okay, the foreign minister of Germany was a man named Arthur Zimmermann. Arthur Zimmermann is going to write a telegram, kind of like a letter, to Mexico. You might say, well, that's kind of weird, right? In this letter, they're going to propose an alliance with Mexico. Okay, they know that soon we're going to enter the war. They know that. So they're going to get the war into their favor and into our disadvantage. So what they're going to say, okay, is that they want, okay, Mexico to attack the United States. Okay, and we might say, well, why should Mexico attack the United States? What is that going to do? So Germany says, Mexico, if you attack the United States from the south part, when we win, because they were overly confident, when we win, we will give you part of the United States that you lost during the Mexican-American War. Okay, so we might think, well, why do they want Mexico to attack us? Okay, if Mexico attacks us, we would have to send our soldiers down towards our southern border to fight Mexico. Okay, once Mexico, fights us, we would also be in war with Germany, so we would only be able to send half of our troops over to Europe, making us half as powerful because we would be fighting two fronts at the same time. So they're trying to create the two-front war for us. Okay, so if we look at this, this sounds like a great idea. The problem was that this telegram, okay, was intercepted and it was published in American newspapers all across our states. And the reason they published it was because they wanted Americans to feel upset at Germany and back the president when he declared war. Okay, so in March 1917, okay, in response to the Zimmermann telegram, the public is outraged. We're upset at Germany. President Wilson is going to go to Congress and ask them to declare war. Okay, so we declare war on April 6, 1917. Wilson's main idea, okay, was that the world must be safe for democracy. Okay, we're going to stop here. This is the last